I love Stranger Things, and it pains me to say this, but I think season 5 is the weakest season in the entire series. And it's not necessarily because the Duffers just all of a sudden lost their mind and forgot how to write. Rather, I think it's because there were problems that started all the way back in season 1 that they didn't resolve, didn't know how to resolve, kept kicking the can down the road. And then season 5 was left holding the bag on a lot of these problems while they're trying to wrap it all up. I think the biggest problem burdening season 5 was just how big the mythos and how many characters there were that was weighing the show down, because the Duffers never originally intended for the show to get this big or to go on for this long. So they were having to make up new ideas and retrofit them into the existing lore. I think this is why season 1 excelled so much, is because we didn't need all of the mythos and lore explained, because so much of it just functioned on a much more symbolic level. I love season 1 because of the idea of a child being kidnapped by supernatural forces and then taken into a parallel world. I always interpreted it as a symbol of the loss of childhood innocence. The upside down is the cruelness of the real world that children, especially in white picket fence America, are shielded from, and they don't know it exists until that real world snatches one of them, and then the others are left having to grow up faster than expected, and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to address this issue, so they use the grammar and vocabulary that they have at their disposal, which is Dungeons and Dragons. I found this absolutely genius from the Duffer Brothers parts to rope in the cosmic horror and sci-fi elements into a normal coming-of-age story. Like I said, we don't need to know what the upside down is or was, because it was just a symbol of the cruelness of the real world. We didn't need to know what happened to Will in the upside down. It just symbolized the loss of childhood innocence and showed a friend group going through hell and back to recover their best friend. Another point that I think was absolutely genius in season 1 was setting it in the backdrop of Soviet-era Cold War tensions in America. All of this began because America wanted to spy on the Soviets, so they began recklessly experimenting, and in their reckless experimentation, it has ripples that causes a small town to go into a spiral once people start vanishing. So the whole thematic trend of government overreach tying into loss of childhood innocence and disturbances in suburban America and exposure to the cruelness of the real world was amazing. And then tying that all back in with the normal tropes of a coming of age tale and giving us all of that 1980s nostalgia bait was what made the show glorious. Now, we know in later seasons they dig into the Russian plot a little bit more literally, and I thought season 3 was bad because of this, because just the paranoia alone was amazing. So yes, while I think season 5 was narratively the weakest, I don't necessarily think it was season 5's fault as much as it was the show was never planned to get this large or to have this much mythos, and the Duffers were honestly struggling to reconcile all of it. I don't think there is a good way to do a show like this in a seasonal structure. The closest we've ever had is probably Game of Thrones, but most of the books were written before they started the show, so they were able to scope out major plot beats and character development long before they ever reached those points. In seasonal television, I just don't know how you could think this far ahead. I will always love Stranger Things, and it holds a special place in my heart. For all of its flaws, it was glorious, and the end of it really felt like the end of an era. I'm not sure if we'll ever get another TV show quite like this. Anyhow, that's all I have on this topic. If you want me to cover another movie or TV show, drop it in the comments. I'd be happy to do it.